Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Another week here of the show. Very exciting. Baseball around the corner. You can feel it in the air. We are brought to you, as always, by our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86, east end of Listowel. Our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and of course, Listowel Squash Courts. We'll hear a little bit more from all of them later. But right now, Clarkey and I are very pleased to bring back a very good friend of the show, a great friend of the show, Rob Longley, Blue Jays beat reporter for the Sun. Mr. Longley, welcome back.
Hey guys, good to be here. As we sit here today, hard to believe, but 2 weeks from today, opening day. That came quick.
And Ryan said, like baseball, you can feel it in the air. Is it just me, or is there a little malaise about this baseball thing starting up this year? Like, I haven't really paid much attention to the training camp, and I think the Blue Jays just, because of their terrible, in my opinion, offseason, I'm not getting excited about it right now.
Oh, I think there's a ton of malaise around this team. I mean, my inbox is flooded every day with various ticket offerings from the Jays. They're packaging this and they're packaging that, and it's almost like they're desperate to sell more expensive tickets for that renovated Rogers Center. Mm-hmm. And they're probably having a little bit of trouble selling them. And why would that be? An underachieving season, a disastrous postseason when they embarrassed themselves in Minnesota, and then an arguably even worse offseason where all they did was land a couple of 40-year-olds, essentially. I exaggerate for effect, but I mean, really, that's three developments in a row. And, a lot of people tend to think that Blue Jays fans are suckers, but I think that there's a little bit of there's a genuine malaise or even anger with this fan base right now as to not only the way things went down last year, but the way it was handled by the front office. And then the fact that the whole tease of Shohei Ohtani and then leading to next to nothing after that. It's a team I think that maybe is going to have to show the fan base something before they're back fully on board. And just like last year, they got to do it with a 10-game road trip to start the season. And those 10 games are Tampa, Houston, New York Yankees. So it's going to be a very, very interesting early April around this ball team, I think.
Yeah, and you talked about tickets. Ryan and I were talking few weeks back, and I took a look at the new and improved 100 level. I couldn't find a ticket under $100 for any game, even a weekday game. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not doing it. I'm not spending that much.
Yeah, I think it's a dramatic misread of the market. I mean, I think the place is going to look better. I mean, the seats are going to be more comfortable. The 100 level seats are going to have cup holders. Woohoo!
Whoa!
But that's not enough for me to spend. And they're all going to be, because it was built as a stadium, not a ballpark. All the seats will be essentially directed at the mound, I believe, somewhere between the mound and home plate. So it's going to feel a little bit more like a ballpark than it ever did.
Yeah.
But it's the product that's going to drive it. Not people are going to go see it once or twice, but they're not going to buy a 20-game package if the product that's on that field isn't up to their standards. And I think really right now it's got to be, in the fans' mind anyway, it's got to be close to what it was in 2015, 2016, the product, because they bought into the whole 2017, things didn't work out. And then 2018 was the start of the whole rebuild and tear down. Okay, that's fine. That takes a couple of years. Then you get through COVID. And now you're a team of promise in 2021 when Vladdy Guerrero hits 48 home runs and you miss the playoffs by a game. And then you can even dismiss a little bit what happened in 2022 because they improved some, still lost. They were still swept out of the playoffs. But they went into 2023 not only with big external expectations, but internally they said, our goal is to win the division. We're going to win the division this year because we're going to avoid that whole crappy wild card scenario and drive our own destiny. And then what happened? They had a really a very mediocre season. Let's face it, with the talent that they had, and especially with the pitching talent that they had. And as I said earlier, followed that with the offseason. So a lot on the line for this team. I was saying this to somebody the other day that you rewind it just 3 years ago to 2021 when we were all talking about this team being the team of the future, and not just in the American League East, but through all of baseball. This was the promising young team, right? Where's all that promise gone? Vlad Guerrero Jr. has regressed. They've gotten rid of a number of their prospects. And all of a sudden, it's the Baltimore Orioles who are the team of maybe the present and the future. And the Orioles' future, let's be honest, looks a lot more bright than the Jays did in 2021. So I think this is a a dramatically large season for not only for the players but for the front office and Rodgers as a whole. Like how much longer is the Rodgers family going to put up with the promises from Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins that bluntly have yet to be delivered?
Well, that's what I was, Ryan. I don't usually hog this many questions at the beginning, so I apologize.
No, please.
That's exactly what I was just going to ask you. How long will they last with Shapiro and Atkins? It's almost like they're pulling the wool over their heads and they're faking it. I don't know. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit strong, and I'm willing to give Mark Shapiro a little bit more credit than that. I think that he is a very savvy businessman and a very savvy baseball man. But his best work, to your point, his best work has been to convince Rodgers to spend a whole pile of money, not just on payroll. They're going to be a luxury tax again for the second consecutive season, but on the renovations first to the player development complex down in Dunedin, which is spectacular. And then to spend $300 million on that dump in downtown Toronto, it's going to look a lot better. But man, oh man, Shapiro has convinced, if you do the math on it, he has convinced Ed Rodgers to spend $1 billion basically on this team, and almost $2 billion, because he did have him convinced to go almost that high to get Shohei Ohtani. So what is Mark Shapiro's greatest work thus far? It's been to convince the owner of the team to spend money. But I mean, it's like this is a publicly traded company. Right? There's got to be results.
It's like putting lipstick on a pig with the stadium.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. But what's the alternative, right?
No, for sure.
That's the problem.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great space.
It is a problem.
It's great land. But where do you play for 2 years if they do rip it down and build a new one? Buffalo?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's no alternative.
Oh,
yeah. Well, Buffalo might make Vladdy happy again, because that's where he did a lot of damage during that almost MVP year, and he's got to turn it around too. And like, obviously, that's a big part of the fabric of the team going forward. We're chatting with Rob Longley of the Sun here, Blue Jays beat reporter, and Rob, like, I look at this roster, and even me being like optimistic baseball guy, and I can look a little more favorably on this team, I guess, in comparison to my Oakland A's. And, I love the Jays too, but, I can't even look in that direction. But I'm even feeling very malaised and not very fired up about this team. And it all stems for me, and I think for most fans, with the combo of the price is going up because of this renovation that no one's going to care about if they don't see a bunch of wins in there. And the fact that we know that they were ponied up to get Shohei, which any smart business person in baseball would be if the opportunity was there. And then when they didn't get him, they inexcusably didn't bolster this roster in any meaningful way. I like Justin Turner. I respect the career he's had. He's a great veteran, and he's produced everywhere he's gone. He's 39 years old. He'll be 40 in the middle of the season. I love Joey Votto. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think that he was a Hall of Famer 10 years ago when he was in the prime of his career. I don't know what he necessarily offers this team outside of maybe being a hitting coach, essentially. But outside of that, they've done nothing to materially make this team better than last year's. So, like, sell this to me. What should we be excited about?
Well, here's my thought on Justin Turner. I think he's an outstanding addition, as long as it's your third or your fourth best addition of the offseason, right? And he's the best addition. I'm going to throw something back at you instead. And this is something that I found myself thinking a lot about over the winter. We tended to dump on the front office for their inability to acquire guys, and it's not through lack of effort. I mean, these guys are out there doing their jobs and trying to get people, and there's some Rodgers money to spend. But I have to wonder. Baseball people talk, right? players talk to other players, and word gets around. And I have to wonder how much residual damage has been done over the last season to the Blue Jays' reputation. When baseball players, like, it's one thing to do what you did with Jose Barrios if you did it on July 14th and you blew a game that way. But when you do it in a wild card game with all of baseball watching and have it blow up so spectacularly in your face, and then have the you-know-what show afterwards, where Ross Atkins got up holier than thou and threw his manager on the bus. If you're a free agent, you're like, aren't you maybe telling your agent, like, unless the money is insane, why would I want to go there? That's dramatic again for effect, but I have to wonder if there's a little bit of that going on. Yeah. The book was always you had to pay a bit of a premium to get an elite player to come to Toronto anyway. It certainly was the case with Hyunjin Ryu and with George Springer. But, I mean, guys now can be so selective that they can pick a team that they want to go to. And when they're at that point of their career, they want to go to a team that they think is going to be a winner. That was a good selling point for the Blue Jays in 2021. It's less so in 2024.
How do they fix this then? Because my impression of it now, Rob, is that, and this is not, it's clearly not the direction they wanted to go, because we know that they were hot to trot for Ohtani, which would have been potentially the hugest acquisition in Canadian sports history. I can't even think of anything close that's happened. Like, we can dream up hypotheticals, Gretzky playing for the Maple Leafs, McDavid playing for the Maple Leafs, LeBron playing for the Raptors. We can dream of stuff. If it had happened, it would have for sure been the biggest thing to happen to a Canadian sporting franchise, but it didn't. And so then they pivot essentially to nothing, where they look back and go, well, this is essentially what they're running it back. But the problem is, when you talk about running it back in this city, with the Leafs, it was around a bunch of guys that at least they consistently produce and put up 105, 110-point seasons. They get into the playoffs, no problem, no big deal. Austin Matthews is winning Hart trophies. You cannot say that about this Blue Jays roster. There was the 1 year of extreme excitement around Vladdy. Bo Bichette had a very good year last year. He had a very good year, not an elite year, a good one. So I'm looking at this roster, and to me, they're sitting there and trying to still sell us all on the promise of these young guys who are starting to become not that young anymore. Is that essentially your impression that you're getting from the front office? Because outside of Turner and some of these international signings they've made, and maybe we see some Ricky Tiedemann, like, I'm looking around and going, okay, same old gang sitting on the bench here.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It's almost like this, the way the front office likes to do it is they like to pick a theme to sell each offseason. Last year it was run prevention, man. A run saved is as good as a run earned. That's going to get us over the hump and make us one of the best teams in baseball. This is, okay, we're running it back, but we've got 4 or 5 guys who underachieved last year, and they're going to be much better this year because last year was an aberration. Last year was the outlier, and we've got Donnie Baseball as offensive coordinator, and he's going to fix everything. Alejandro Kirk was here for all of training camp. Watch him go. Vladdy Guerrero's in the best shape that he has been in since he was 2021. And what did he do in 2021? He had 48 home runs. George Springer, he was healthy last year. He's going to be better at the plate than he was last year. Dalton Varsho, he's comfortable in Toronto now. He's going to be much better. That's how we're going to do it. It's just a bunch of crap, right? It's them trying to spin an underachieving off season and hang the season on hope. And part of that is out of necessity, because the cupboards that were once fairly full with prospects aren't so full anymore. Some of them never panned out. Many were dealt away in trades, whether big or small, over the last couple of seasons to try to capitalize on that core that they felt was ready to take the next step and never happened. So now, to your point, Ryan, like what hope do you have from young players coming up and having an impact? On the offensive side, Davis Schneider doesn't excite me all that much. I think he might make the roster, but we saw by the end of last season that pitchers figured out a way to attack him, and that's going to be the same thing until he adjusts. useful guy to have off of the bench. I like Ernie Clement. I think he has a possibility of being a reasonable big leaguer at some point, but he's not a game-changing kind of guy. So you've got no real position players that excite you at this point. Switching over to the pitching side, I think the hype around Ricky Tiedemann is legit. Although the caveat on that is the Jays tend to have a way of messing such things up. Even Nate Pearson would be a great example. They're so into this whole managing of workload thing. Like they're talking about, they don't want Ricky Tiedemann through all the levels that he pitches at this year to pitch more than between 80 and 100 innings. They want to baby him. And I understand a young guy like that, you kind of have to do that. But at some point, and pitching coach Pete Walker has kind of hinted to me at this. It's like, let the kid throw, monitor his health, and certainly don't expect him to pitch 170 innings. But if he can help you at the major league level, and by all indications he can, let the guy go, because you don't have a whole lot else. And you might only have 2 more seasons of Vlad and Bo on your team. And we've already seen a regression in George Springer. And we all knew that when he signed that long-term deal, that the last 2 years of it were going to be the least productive. That's just the way these things work for older baseball players. So, I mean, the time really is now. You can't leave Ricky Tiedemann in the barn. I mean, what would be the point? Mm-hmm. And back to your point, Brian, there's not a whole lot else there. Bowden Francis, I think, is a guy that we're going to see earlier in the season because Alek Manoah is not going to be ready. And I think that Kevin Gausman's going to miss at least 2 turns through the rotation as well. So, I think he's a pretty useful arm, but he's not a guy that excites you and makes you all of a sudden think that he's going to be a big factor in the rotation. So in less than 3 years, they've gone from an organization that seemed to have a ton of depth to having virtually none of it.
Depth too. Alek Manoah, you mentioned him there not being ready. What's the latest? What's going on with this guy? And do you see this ever turning around for this guy?
Do you think he'll even make 10 starts? Like, would he even I would be shocked at this point if he made 10 appearances.
My trouble is I'm a Manoah guy. I admit it. I like Manoah.
I do too.
No, but I'm just explaining that part of it. I mean, I first met him in 2019. I was out doing a Seattle and a Dodger series, and I plopped up to Vancouver because he was with the Canadians, and it was the year he was drafted, and met him then. And since then, I've had a good working relationship with him. And I like his mound presence. I love that great season that he had. I like his brashness and all that kind of stuff. But you really, really have to wonder what's up with this guy now, right? I think he had a really good offseason. Like, he does look like a different player. He looks, his physique is dramatically different than it was a year ago. His head seemed to be on straight. Before he pitched in a game, the players that I trust and that I talked to after he would throw a bullpen session said, it's completely different. He's back. We have to see it in games, but all indications are that he's going to be back. Then he goes out in his first game and he hits 3 batters, which isn't the end of the world in your first, let's face it, his first time throwing off a uniform on since August, whatever. And your first outing in spring training, but then he has shoulder issues afterwards, and he hasn't thrown off a mound since, and that's coming up on 3 weeks now, and he won't be throwing off of a mound for another week. And really we're at a point now where, it's probably 8 to 10 weeks before he could handle a full starter's workload. So where does Alek Manoah start the season? Like, he probably starts it in Buffalo, right? I don't think you keep him around for like a long guy out of the bullpen. I think you send him down to Buffalo as a starter and build him up. And then you hope, if you're the Blue Jays, you hope that he shows some of the form from 2 years ago, that he earns his way back onto the rotation. I found it very interesting, by the way, that at this right from the start of spring training, John Schneider's view on Alek Manoah was, quote unquote, he's competing for a job. And Pete Walker said the same thing. So they brought him into camp, but ready to take a little bit of some of the sort of the steam away from him. Another thing too is his first start was in Lakeland. His second scheduled start was in Fort Myers. Those are 2 of the worst road trips in spring training, such as they are. They're bus rides through crappy Florida interstates, and you never see veteran starters go to any of those places. So they were sending a message to Alek Manoah that nothing's being handed to you this spring, and then he goes and suffers a physical setback. So I wouldn't say we're back to square one where we were in July and August of last summer, but we're certainly in a position where Alek Manoah has to prove himself as not just a major league starter, but a guy who can contribute to a major league team. It's been a real setback for him, and it's really show me time from Alek Manoah. He's done all the right things physically, but he still has to prove it.
Yeah, and it's tough too. I wonder your opinion on this, Rob. Like, you watch baseball a really long time. We all have. But my opinion of him is, and I know he'll throw the changeup every now and again too, but he really is, reliant, especially that big season he had when he was third in Cy Young voting. He really relied on his fastball and his slider. And his slider was lethal. Like, his slider that season, he had a whiff rate on that was like through the roof. I believe he had the third highest whiff rate pitch in baseball that season with his slider. And it's a chicken and the egg conversation, because some would go, well, his slider sets his fastball up. No, his fastball sets the slider up. Regardless, it was so bad last year, and all three of the guys he hit in that spring training start were with his slider. Yeah. It doesn't matter, like, his velocity's back up around 96 with the fastball. If he can't throw that slider in a good spot and get guys, especially righties, to swing and miss on it, if he's throwing it 3 feet out here, it doesn't matter what his velocity on his fastball is. Do you think that he should mix a third pitch in, a different breaking ball, to potentially, because that's what Roy Halladay did. Roy Halladay learned how to throw a changeup, and it dramatically changed the trajectory of his career. His changeup was one of the best I've ever seen. Do you think that it could be as simple as maybe somebody sitting him down? I don't know if it's Gausman teaching him to throw a splitter, something where he can mix it up and not be so slider reliant?
Yeah, I think that's something that he's worked on and that he's talked to Gausman about too. And I think he's messed around a little bit with a splitter because you're absolutely right. His fastball plays, it really does, but it only plays if the secondary stuff is working too, because like so many young pitchers nowadays, hitters adapt, right? And if they can sit on that fastball, they can afford to sit on that fastball because nothing else is going to be really in danger of getting them out, then Manoah's going to pay for it. And that was part of his problem last year when the slider was really poor. And then, the fastball, I think, had regressed a little bit from the season before, but because the slider wasn't playing, as you said, Ryan, the guys were able to sit on it and just do a ton of damage. And that stuff all shows up on video, right? So after his first start, which was such a disaster, every future player that was going to face Manoah knew exactly what to do. Until he got the slider back, it was always going to be wait for your pitch because eventually you're going to get it because he's going to have no choice but to throw it. So, I think you look back to 2022, and I think that was, a lot of people. Manoah was a Cy Young finalist, right? But a lot of people would have made the argument that Gausman was actually the more effective Blue Jays pitcher that season. A difficult comparison because one's a veteran and one's, in his kind of his first big full season. But the point that they made was that Gausman's got more in his arsenal, and that if Manoah was going to want to sustain the form that he had in that really, really good 2022 season, he's going to have to progress as a pitcher, and he's going to have to add something else, a third pitch. And what happened is he regressed, and, so here we are.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Clarkey, who's going to play third?
Third, yeah.
Are you available?
I was at the fantasy camp back in 1991.
Okay. Wow. I wanted to ask you that too, Rob, because, and it ties into kind of my thought here. I wonder if you agree with this when it comes to third. Like, yes, we know Justin Turner can play third, but you're not going to walk a near 40-year-old out there to play the hot corner. Like, I wouldn't want him out there more than half the time because I think you need No, yeah, you need that guy DHing more and helping some of these hitters. I do wonder about this, and I wonder if you agree, because, we can talk about Vlad bouncing back, Bo being good again, Varsho, whatever. I think, based on the way we saw him play in the last month of the season, where he really seemed to be starting to get his swing back in a good rhythm, and we know how versatile he is, I think a potential X factor for this Jays season is Cavan Biggio. Can he play third, and how effective do you think he could be? We know he's great in the middle of the field and can play a decent outfield. I think he could be the X factor of the season if things go well, Rob.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think now he had a bit of a slow start to spring training. He had like some tendonitis in his shoulder, so it wasn't a huge thing, but he's back in games now and he's hitting, and he was sneaky good late in the season last year. And he's one of these guys that, front office and the coaching staff love with the Blue Jays, a guy they can put anywhere, and in the lineup, in the field rather. And if he's contributing offensively, just getting on base, which is one of his strong suits when he's going well at the plate, then you can afford to put him anywhere. So I could see Biggio playing a fair amount of time at third base. I think it's going to be a lot of Isaiah or Kiner Falefa by default. I mean, that was a position that they needed to address. He's pretty good defensively, I will say. He's looked good in spring training. At the plate, what is he? He's probably a poor man's Matt Chapman. But, Matt Chapman, other than April last year, wasn't exactly a guy that you could rely on to produce. Guy you could rely on for occasional power, and you're not going to get that from IKF. However, a change of scenery. I think people like some Yankees people I talked to suggested that, he's pretty laid back dude, that he found it a little bit difficult playing in New York, and then maybe this fresh start will be good for him. As I said, he's looked pretty good. Is he an everyday third baseman? Maybe not, but he might be a 110 game guy. And then if you throw Turner over there for 20 and you throw Biggio over there for 20, then you've almost got you've almost got it all figured out. So it's going to be, and even right from the start of training camp, when Schneider was asked, who's on third, which he was asked more than once, it'd be like, well, it kind of is what it is. It's going to be a mix of guys. In other words, we didn't get anybody. So the guy that you're seeing me throw out there just about every day, IKF, is likely going to be the almost everyday guy. Is basically what he was saying without saying it. And people wondered if, so the longer that Chapman went without signing anywhere, if he might be coming back to Toronto. But I don't think that was ever going to happen. And my guess was that it was from Matt Chapman's end, that he didn't necessarily want to come back. And maybe the Jays didn't either, because maybe there was. Well, he turned down. He turned down that offer from them. So it was very fascinating.
He had some moments with Schneider too, didn't he? Chapman.
Well, there was the one in the dugout, the note when he kind of gave him grief for why are you pitching to Ohtani, and it was very kind of blew up in their faces a little bit. And I know it was a one-off, but that's not a good look, right?
No,
and you can say that it was player on manager, but if you dig deeper and look at go to what we were discussing a little bit earlier in our talk here, it may have been as much player on front office. Like, wait a minute, why you guys have this all figured out, and we're pitching to this guy, the only guy in that lineup who can possibly get a hit off of Kevin Gausman, and we're pitching to him. Come on.
The computer must have said to pitch to him.
Apparently,
the computer must have said.
And I just want to correct Rob. He said who's on third. It's actually who's on first. I don't know who's on third.
Yeah. I know IKF's on third.
Yeah, exactly. Who's on first?
Yeah.
I'm asking you. I want to ask you quickly before we let you go. The Jays made a lot of noise about this Cuban free agent pitcher that they signed, Yariel Rodriguez. He's a 27-year-old, good numbers in the Nippon Baseball League. Did you get eyes on him? Tell us a little bit about him if you can.
Yeah, I got eyes on him very early, and he looked really good. And he was, guys were kind of impressed with it. Danny Jansen thought that the guy had, some potential, and Pete Walker liked what he saw in the first session. And then he had like a bit of an arm issue, and they basically shut him down. I've been back for a week or so now, so I haven't seen him since, but he's been back throwing off a mound, and I believe he's supposed to get into a game this weekend. So it'll be a bit of a wait and see with him. Obviously they made a bit of a financial commitment to him, but I think the whole idea with him is we have to wait and see what we have. The guy hasn't pitched in a game in over a year. Right. So I would expect that they'll stretch it, that he'll get, regular work for the remainder of spring training, the last 2 weeks here, which would mean maybe 2-3 appearances. And then I would expect that he would go to Buffalo, and they will, put him in the rotation there, build him up as a starter, evaluate what you have, and let him work his way up to Toronto when the time's appropriate. And it won't be considered a demotion. It'll be considered we have to see what we have here, and we have to work with him a little bit and get him accustomed to North American baseball, because he hasn't really thrown against these kind of hitters. And from my understanding, Rodriguez is quite fine with that. Like, he understands that's the way it's got to go, that baseball here is a lot different than it is in Japan, and certainly a lot different than it is in Cuba, and that he's going to have to learn how to face North American hitters before he gets a chance at doing it in the big leagues.
Well, wait and see is kind of the message of this offseason, I think, from the fans' perspective. We're just going to have to wait and see what these guys look like, because, man, they have an awful lot to prove and an awful lot of work to do to win over this fan base again after the way last season ended, man. And, Rob, you're the guy we turn to when we want to talk ball, especially when it's about the Blue Jays. You can follow Rob at Longley Sun Sport on social media. He is the best. Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun. Thanks so much for doing this, my friend. It was great to see you.
Thanks, guys. Let's do it again after that opening road trip when the 3-7 Blue Jays have their home opener at the newly renovated Rogers Center. Then we'll really
appreciate you. We love your optimism. Awesome. All right, pal. Thanks for doing this, man. It's always a pleasure.
Mine too. See you guys.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Clarkey and I have a bunch more to dig into, and of course, that will include golf. It is the Players' Championship at my favorite golf course, TPC Sawgrass. We love 17. We'll unveil our teams that we picked next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by Conway Furniture, our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and of course, Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan Drury back here with Clarkey. Thanks so much to Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun for jumping on. He's our guy, man. When we want to talk baseball, especially the Jays, one of the best out there, Blue Jays beat reporter. He's been doing it a long time. And Rob's the best, man. He just gives it to you straight up. And there's Clarkey with the toque on, and you're going to need it, man, because it's going to start raining on you, brother. Our golf picks this week. You are in trouble, dude. We
just got into this in the break here, and go ahead. Just
yeah. Well, so you're riffing off about how it's the first week. It's the first week that you haven't taken Matt Fitzpatrick, and of course he's 6 under on day one. And I said to you, well, yeah, of course, because you started stealing all my regular guys, so I went in a different direction.
No one has regular guys. It's a pool. You can pick whoever you want.
I know, but that you saw me winning all the time, and you thought I'm going to go ahead and sneak it. Yeah, it's true that I was winning.
I don't care who you had the week to week. I couldn't care less. I just look at the tournament, I do some research, and I pick guys.
Well, listen, I think that you have become, and it makes a lot of sense, you are the 2002-2003 Toronto Maple Leafs. You're like, let's sign Owen Nolan, let's get Ron Francis, Ryan Leach, let's get all the players from other teams that helped them win. Yeah, they made the conference final. You don't get a you don't get a trophy for that.
But hey, top 4 team in the league, that's pretty good.
Don't get a trophy for that. And right. So you, not only are you the Cowardly Lion, but when you take off the Cowardly Lion costume, you are John Ferguson Jr.
Adam, clip all this crap, because if I win the pool this week, you're going to replay a lot of this.
As you should. You should rub it in, because I've been really giving it to, right. I've been giving.
I got Corey Connors this week, and he's one of my guys.
Yeah.
I always pick him. And he had
we love Corey.
He had a tough 14th, but he double bogeyed, as I mentioned in the break. But he bounced right back with a birdie on the next hole. So there you go.
Absolutely. That's yes. We love it. Back. Players Championship at TPC Sawgrass. I love Sawgrass 17. It's a legendary hole. The Tiger Woods, better than most. It's a legendary hole. You always get a couple hole-in-ones there. There's the teams. Now, Doige won last week. Doige with a dominant win. He was 18 under off the back of Whiskey Mitts. Scotty Scheffler, producer Adam, great job. So we'll have a gander at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Remember, in our pool, if you pick the winner, you get a bonus 3 strokes. Scotty Scheffler, the mallet, working out for me. Listen to Rory's advice. He got the mallet out, and the Whiskey Mitts went away. How about that? What a win for Doige. You'll notice, of course, that Clarkey didn't win. He was too over.
Give me a break. It's not that I didn't win. My guys didn't perform.
Yeah, because you don't Rory pick good.
So that's not a good team. Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Matty Fitzpatrick, and Sam Burns. That's not good. They just had an off week.
You've been having off weeks.
If I had Rory and Miss Fitzpatrick this week, I'd be in first place.
Well, you've been for day one, which you don't get a trophy for.
It's my guy.
It's who you pick. You don't have a feel for the field. You don't have a feel for the field, right?
It's such BS. It's such BS. What you're doing.
You don't have a feel for the field.
Such BS right now. Okay.
And I won the first 3, which was technically 4 in a row because I won the last tournament of the year prior. I had no idea you won
the first 3.
Absolutely.
Hadn't heard that in at least 3 minutes.
And for 4 events now, if you want to count the 5th one, the Cowardly Lion Mexico Open, you've been really having a tough time, haven't you? It's not been good for you, Cowardly Lion.
Again, okay, at the end of the day, my results haven't been there, but it's my guys that are failing me, not me.
Absolutely. You know who you actually sound like? You're Ross Atkins.
Yeah, you're right. If all my guys would just perform to their capabilities, like Matty Skechers, last week I have him. He misses the cut. This week he's in first, not first, but he's top 5 after day one.
He's right now, in my opinion, maybe the most boom or bust golfer on tour. Yeah. He is so unreliable, unbelievable talent. I think, and Doige, I remember on a show last year, I think when, after he won the US Open, that was 2022. When he won that tournament, everybody was saying, talent wise, this guy's a top 5 player on tour. It's his consistency, especially in big events, that gets him sometimes. He'll either be so dominant and smooth out there, or he'll botch a bunch of holes and chop it around. He's still working on that consistency.
It's almost like the guys are like, Clarkey picked us in the pool. Let's just take the week off. That's what it seems like.
Conspiracy theorist. Now you're back to being a Leaf fan. Now you're average Joe Leaf fan.
I had never been a Leaf fan.
Conspired against us.
You're thinking of someone else.
They conspired against us. It's
anyway,
never
my fault. Let's look at this week's picks again, Adam, if we can.
Let's have the teams. Yes, because, Arnold Palmer. Doige was awesome at the Arnie Palmer. And so by virtue of that, he got the first pick this week, and he went with Rory, who again, is starting to really...
I had last week. Yeah.
You had Rory last week, and he was okay. He was okay. Sure. And you see it there. Now, I had to do it. I had to take Whiskey Mitts with my first pick. Scotty Scheffler, he got that mallet in his hand, and he won by 7 strokes. He was unbelievable at Bay Hill. And if that guy is putting well, he is the best player on tour, head and shoulders. So I was happy to take him. I've got Homa, Cantley, Mr. Slowpoke, but you can't deny the game he has. And Wyndham Clark has been the player to talk about on tour for about a year now. Loved him in the second season of Full Swing. He has been so consistent. Clarkey going with JT, a guy I usually always pick. Victor Hovland, a guy I usually always pick. Will Zalatoris. who I picked last week.
Yeah.
Will Zalatoris.
And he's playing well.
Corey
That's
Connors.
why I picked him. And Corey
Absolutely.
Connors usually plays well these courses.
Will Zalatoris, the original whiskey mitts, and switched to the broom putter. And then Doigi, Rory Matsuyama, Hideki Matsuyama is so much fun. Shane Lowry, who's like just so lovable, and Cameron Young. So best of luck to you guys. I'm going to retake my title. Clarkey will finish last again. And although it would be great if Clarkey did win, because that would mean that Corey did really well. And we love Corey, right?
Nick Taylor's had a good first round too today.
Nick Taylor is the same thing. He's up and down. What a performance at the Waste Management. That playoff hole with him and the Gingerbread Man was unbelievable. He was so good. And then the next couple weeks, he was not very good. You know, you never know what you're going to get from Nick. But when Nick's dialed in, there are a few better clutch players. 75 feet to win. Hello. Yeah, we'll see. But Clarkey, I wish you luck. And, you know, I'll be the first to congratulate you. I won't even let you talk. I'll come on the show next week if you win, and we'll address it immediately, and we will roll out the red carpet for you, dude. I promise. I want this for you. I really do.
Hey.
You need something.
Speaking of rolling out the red carpet. Speaking of rolling out the red carpet, let's congratulate Gushu for his victory at the Briar.
Yeah, the guy you didn't take. Yeah.
And things like that. I like taking the underdog, as you know.
So. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Goose. What an unbelievable player. Gushu. Unbelievable player. Speaking of curling, the wild news coming out finally after seemingly forever that Brianne Harris did not get to play the Scotties because of a doping violation. I've never even heard of the drug, Ligadrol, I believe it's called. Yeah. And I've never even heard of it. And she's contesting that it was through bodily contact.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I assume it was from someone's like skin cream or something. I don't know. I know nothing about the drug.
That's not the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay. Well, sure.
Well, I'm just telling you.
It's a family show, Clarkey.
I understand.
Now,
it is.
I read, though, in the article that a swimmer a couple years ago had a similar suspension, and she appealed and won.
I thought it was a rower.
Maybe it was a rower, something aquatic.
Yeah.
I think, and I asked our friend, Sean Cottrell, what his opinion of it was, and he seemed to also, and he made a Facebook post about it saying, hey, the whole curling community's behind you, Brianne. He seemed to also be of the opinion that she will win this appeal and that it was extremely unfair, the way it all shook down for her. And really the unfairness stems from the lack of clarity from Curling Canada and the tournament clarifying what was wrong.
That's why they were waiting. They couldn't say anything.
Super goofy.
I know.
Super goofy.
Like, I hope she does get it turned around. All I'll say in general, this is totally in general. When people do get caught doping, I rarely believe their excuses.
I know that that's your stance. I understand. But I will say too, and people at WADA and the World Anti-Doping Agency and Fair Sport, whatever, people have said numerous times over the last number of years that some of the rules and some of the substances that are on there shouldn't be on there, and it's way too strict and broad.
Yeah.
So
but this is a definite. This isn't like something that you can find in Sudafed or Tylenol or Advil.
I know.
It's not.
I know.
So
it's interesting for sure, but hopefully there's a good resolution to that for sure.
Yeah.
Really quickly as well. I bring up my friend Sean Cottrell. Listen, we all know Sean is a great curler, okay? But Sean's really good at something else, and that's doing people's taxes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Clarkey suggested to me last year I take my taxes to Sean, and there's a lot of stuff I got going on. We're freelancers here. We got a lot of stuff we got to write off, do this and that. Dude, I fired 800 things at Sean. I had 8 billion questions. He was unbelievable. That guy is a tax wizard, and he'll handle it all for you online and get your assessment done so fast. Sean Cottrell Tax Services. Sean, that's SHAWN. Cottrell Tax Services, 2 T's in Cottrell, 2 L's. He will sort you out. Like if you need your taxes done and it's tax season, let's get it in gear here, people. Sean will take care of you. Clarkey, can't thank you enough for the recommendation, and I can't thank our buddy Sean enough for straightening me out.
Yeah, 2 years in a row I've told you, go see Sean, go see Sean. Finally you did it. That's okay. It's good.
Listen to your friends. And he's been taking care of you too. What a beauty. And again, I know nothing about it. I had 800 questions for him, and he just handled it all with extreme patience and was so good to deal with. As a matter of fact, he found an unclaimed check that I had from like 2 years ago and was like, did you realize that you have money just sitting here? And I went, no, Sean, but that's why you are the Harry Potter of the tax world. What a wizard Sean Cottrell is on the curling rink and doing taxes. How about that, Clarkey?
Yeah. Are you getting a discount because of all this commercial you're giving him? Free
no, I'm just so thrilled with how it all worked out. The guy got me a great return. He's a beauty, and we love Sean. Okay, we're just a friendly plug for our guy Sean Cottrell. Get his tax service for yourself. He was the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready? Do you want to take a break before the couch potato? Collect your thoughts here, JFJ, or do you want to just? All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back. We'll come back with our couch potatoes of the week, brought to you by Conway Furniture, next here on Instigating.
Not confirm or deny.
Back to wrap things up here on another great week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Myself, Ryan Drury, and Chris, the Cowardly Lion Clark. Here we are.
Stop? Can you just stop? Like, seriously, just stop. Like, it's done. It's over. We had a little fun. And it's like, why are you chirping me so much lately? Like, that's all you're
I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I'm really mean-spirited lately.
Like, encouraging you to chirp me?
Yeah, I've had a couple people tell me it's entertaining, so I don't know. I don't know why I'm feeling really mean-spirited lately. Like, everything's good. I'm having a good time over here. I don't know what it is. I just delight in winding you up lately, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a little brother bothering the big, your sibling ever, like, my brother used to steal my CDs all the time and like not put them back in the case, and it would really wind me up. That's what I'm doing to you. I'm stealing your theoretical CDs and I'm winding you up about it. What about that?
Couch potato time.
Yes, it is. Conway Furniture, our friends, Highway 86, east end of Listowel. And I'll tell you what,
these hats, by the way? Do you like?
You want to get into the couch potato spirit? Look at that! You got the mesh.
You like the snapback hats? Do you like those?
Snapback's the way to go.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't get one. Our friends at Conway Furniture, let me tell you.
That's not a snapback, your Conway hat?
No. Mine's the band one with the buckle.
Right.
But you're hooked up.
I got the.
But listen, our friends down there at Conway Furniture, that's Highway 86, east end of Listowel. They'll hook you up. You want to go in there and you get in the couch potato spirit. You want a new love seat, nice new sofa to lay out on, and watch our buddy Corey Connors teeing it up at TPC. You want to watch the Leafs do whatever it is they do every spring. You want to watch the Blue Jays try and prove that they're actually worth spending money on from the couch first. You go see our friends at Conway Furniture, and let me tell you what, all the prices in there, it includes HST and delivery. They will bring the couch to you to lay down on and watch Vladdy Guerrero Jr. go 0 for 3 against the Houston Astros. So let me tell you, you go see our friends at Conway Furniture. Clarkey, speaking of friends of the show, before we unveil our couch potatoes, we have friends over at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC as well. And I know that there's always something hot deal-wise going on with our friends over there.
There is. And the discounts continue. OFA discounts. All farmers out there, that's shot up, so they get more discount. As well, there's good rebates right now on some half-ton trucks, some really good lease rates on some trucks. Costco's back for some SUVs. We're moving lots of product right now, and this is the time to come in. If you've been putting it off, right now, there's lots of opportunity. So come on in to Larry Hudson's where the deal's hot.
Yes, they are. They absolutely are. And hey, you want another good deal? You go see our friends. You want to get active too? You go see our buddy Al at the Listowel Squash Courts. And remember, they completely reworked the Listowel gym, the gymnastics program over there that they host in the same building. They've completely reworked that for everybody. If you're interested, go find them online and check it out. Super easy to sign up for both. All right.
Al chirped me this week too, by the way.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to help our buddy Steve Sabrin out because we have a little app that we use. And I said, can you send Steve the info for the app? It's called Heya. And so the response I get from Al was, it's in the bottom of every one of my emails. And I said, I don't read your emails.
Oh my God.
And then the one I opened and responded to, it wasn't in there. So Al, they're not at the bottom of every email. Anyway, so I played twice this week with Savvy. He's back at it. So look out.
I know he told me all about it. Yeah. He thinks that he's in getting back into game shape here. So
yeah, he is. Anyway,
there you go.
Time for the Couch Potato.
Yeah, the Conway Furniture Couch Potato, Clarkey. Yeah. What would you like to put on the table here?
Have you ever heard of Kayla Ard?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know why.
Well, Kayla coaches this past season Utah State.
Oh no!
And she
now
let's just roll the tape. This is after the last game of the season, and she's meeting the media right after the game. Roll it, Adam.
To rebuild for next season.
I'm not going to be rebuilding. I just coached my last game at Utah State. I spoke with Diana, and they're going in a different direction, and I respect her decision, and I hope they get a really good coach in. I'm assuming that's going to be the last question. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All. Thank you, Coach.
Well, that's something. That was a. Can you imagine right after the last game of the year? Like, don't you let them maybe chill out for a day or something before you fire someone? And then she goes out and meets the media. And the first question, of course, is how are you going to rebuild? Well, I'm not going to rebuild. Now, with all due respect to the organization, her record wasn't stellar. She was 24 wins and 90 losses in 4 seasons. But to do that and to tell her right after the game and then having to go out and meet the media, Kayla and the organization, she'll be a couch potato, probably not for long. I'm sure she'll bounce back, but that's my couch potato of the week.
Yeah, well, yeah, Utah State. Come on here. Like, in the very least, yeah, okay, your record wasn't stellar, whatever you want to say. There's a way to go about doing things in the right way here. It's very unprofessional, and Diana over there at Utah State needs some PR training. Like, come on, Diana, figure it out.
Exactly, Diana.
We're wishing Coach Ard the best. I'm sure she's going to land her feet because she did something
exactly.
She showed she was a stand-up person there. That was tough to watch. I didn't really like that. All right. No. I don't like this either. My couch potato. It's a guy that I'm beginning to just not stand. And it doesn't work this way, but how Barry Bonds will never get in the Hall of Fame because all the media hate him. I wish it could be the same at this point for this guy. And he's an all-time great football player. I'm getting really tired. Producer Adam, throw this up. I'm getting so tired of Aaron Rodgers. And there's a rumor floating around now that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is a bit of a wingnut, is going to run as an independent to try and become the next president of the United States. He's going to reveal soon who his running mate will be as his potential vice president. And the rumor is it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I can't take it anymore, dude. I'm sick of this guy. Fine. Go live in a hobbit hole for 3 days in total darkness. Go to the desert and get high on ayahuasca and prophesy that you want to play for the Jets. Whatever. Do all that. That's great. I cannot take it. And you know what? Trump got in. Is it inconceivable at this point that a former football player is going to go in and be the vice president? No. So I just can't do this anymore, dude. I don't know what's going on down there, But man, oh man, America, America is my couch potato, but Aaron Rodgers is America's the couch and he is the potato on it. What is going on with this guy? Play football and shut up. Like, you can have all the political takes you want. And that's fine, but just go away already, Aaron. We're done. Like, fix your ankle, throw a couple touchdowns, and shut up. I'm done. I'm going to be the vice president. Yeah, right, dude.
Isn't Jesse the Body involved too?
Yeah, Jesse the Body Ventura. Like, what's happening?
I don't know. It's crazy. And apparently, like I read on the internet, the last election, they miscounted or something. That's what I read. It's got to be true. It's a joke.
That's all the time.
The whole thing's a joke. It's like it's unbelievable, really.
I can't do it anymore, dude. Yeah. I can't do it. You know what? And if we're gonna do it too, because we just copy them, I want to vote for like the Letterkenny guys. Like, can Jared Keeso be the next prime minister? I'll vote for Shorzy. He'll set the tone.
There you go.
Shorzy's prime minister. The three Jims are in charge of like foreign affairs. I think that's a recipe for success. It must be working because all these former like comedian. I'm just done. I can't do it anymore. We appreciate you watching the show. Hey, we're back on Whiteman. What's up?
HD. In HD, we look great, don't we?
We look fantastic, dude. Me and the Cowardly Lion have never looked better.
Enough with the cowardly. That's the last time you can refer to that. Okay.
Fine. It will not be. Find the show on social media at Instigating Pod. You can watch the show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9, right here on Whiteman, Channel 6. For Whiteman subscribers, we debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Find us there on social media, all your favorite podcast apps. For our friend Rob Longley, the Toronto Sun Blue Jays beat reporter, myself, Ryan Drury, that is Clarkey, just Clarkey. Our friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and of course, all love here, brother, the Listowel Squash Courts. We'll see you next week with more Instigating.